They laughed every single time. Still playing the lottery, huh? You know it's a scam, right? They rolled their eyes, made little jokes at family dinners, whispered behind my back like I was the sad, delusional one clinging to fantasies. To them, I was just wasting time and money, buying scratch-offs instead of facing reality, chasing luck instead of growing up. I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. I just smiled and bought another ticket. Because what they never understood was that I wasn't chasing money. I was chasing freedom. And one morning when I scratched that little silver box and saw the numbers staring back at me, it happened. $3 million. Overnight, I became everything they mocked me for dreaming. And what came next? Let's just say they weren't laughing anymore. Welcome to Judgy Tales, where real stories collide with real judgment. On this channel we don't sugarcoat drama, and we don't skip to the happy ending. We walk you straight through the mess, the betrayal, the lies, the unspoken truths that hide under perfect family photos and polite conversations. Because life gets real ugly before it gets even. And today's story, it's not just about winning the lottery. It's about what happens when the underdog stops apologizing. When the quiet one finally has power. When the one you mocked becomes the one walking away, with everything. In this episode you'll meet a narrator who spent years being dismissed, underestimated, and belittled. Not because they were weak, but because they dared to hope for something more. They weren't flashy. They didn't fight back. But they remembered every word, every smirk, every time someone said, "You'll never make it." And when that winning ticket landed in their hand, it wasn't just a financial victory. It was emotional justice. But here's the twist. Money changes things, but it doesn't always fix them. And as you'll see, walking away with $3 million doesn't mean walking away clean. So buckle in. This story has receipts, has drama. It has family tension, secret resentment, and one glorious long overdue mic drop. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't screaming back. It's smiling, cashing the check, and walking away while they're still trying to figure out what just happened. Ear listen. Balance scale judge. Beach balloon share your thoughts. This is Judgy Tales. I wasn't born into money. I wasn't even born into middle-class comfort. My childhood home was a small 2-bedroom house in a quiet part of Michigan, where the winters were long, the bills were longer, and dreams were more like wallpaper. You saw them every day, but they were just part of the background, never moving, never real. My parents, Angela and Carl, worked hard. Too hard. Mom worked at a local diner 6 days a week, and Dad ran deliveries for a parts store. We weren't poor in the starving sense, but we lived paycheck to paycheck, coupon to coupon. I wore hand-me-downs from cousins who lived 3 states away and learned not to ask for extras, not even on my birthday. Wanting more was seen as ungrateful. Having dreams, that was for people who had luxury problems. I was the youngest of 3. My older brother Drew was the golden child. Star athlete, charming, the kind of guy who always seemed to land on his feet. Even when he dropped out of community college, my parents defended him, said, "He'll figure it out." And he kind of did. He got into construction work, started flipping houses with a buddy, and soon he had his own truck, his own place, and enough confidence to make you forget he still borrowed money from Mom. My sister Marla was more complicated. She was brilliant, seriously smart, but also sharp-tongued, impatient, and always felt like the world owed her more. She studied psychology, but I always thought she used it more to manipulate people than to understand them. She liked control. She liked being right. And she liked telling me, often and loudly, how wrong I was. And me. I was the quiet one. The one who read books in the hallway during family parties, who kept to myself, who never really fit into the confident, fast-talking rhythm of our house. I did okay in school. Average grades never caused trouble, but I also didn't stand out. I was what you'd call forgettable. But I had this one habit. This one thing that made them all roll their eyes. Played the lottery. It started when I turned 18. I was working part-time at a gas station, cleaning coffee spills and stocking shelves, when a guy walked in grinning from ear to ear. He was waving a scratch-off ticket. "I just won $5,000 bucks," he shouted to no one in particular. He looked like he hadn't smiled in years. And I thought, wow, $5,000. That could fix your car. Pay rent. Take a breath. I bought a ticket that night. I didn't win, of course. But I felt something like maybe, just maybe, luck wasn't something only rich people had. From then on, I bought one ticket every Friday. Sometimes just a $2 scratcher, sometimes a Powerball quick pick. It wasn't an obsession. I wasn't blowing my rent or skipping meals. It was just a quiet ritual like lighting a candle. A little moment of hope. But to my family, it was embarrassing. They teased me constantly. Drew once held up a crumpled ticket at Thanksgiving and said, "Guess what? Still not a millionaire." Marla would smirk every time I pulled a ticket from my wallet. "You know you have better odds of being struck by lightning, right?" Dad would just sigh. "Don't waste your money, kid. The system's rigged." It wasn't just the tickets they mocked. It was me. They saw me as the dreamer who never got it together. I had jobs, sure, but nothing that stuck. I bounced from customer service to temp gigs to a receptionist role that barely paid above minimum wage. When I tried taking online classes in business, Marla laughed and said, "You drop out before the refund period ends." I didn't even get mad. I was used to being doubted. Family gatherings were the worst. Every time someone asked what I was up to, it was loaded. Drew would chime in with fake job offers. "Hey, maybe the lottery needs a secretary?" And everyone would laugh. Became the running joke. The poor dreamer. The odd one out. Even when I helped Mom with errands, fixed her leaky faucet, or brought groceries when she was sick, it was never enough to be taken seriously. But I kept playing. Quietly. One ticket every Friday. I didn't expect it to change my life. I just liked having that little ember of hope in my pocket. Something no one could touch or ridicule unless I let them. And then came the ticket. I remember that Friday so clearly it still plays in slow motion in my mind. I was running late for work and almost didn't stop at the gas station. But something tugged at me like a whisper. I grabbed a $20 scratch-off, the kind I rarely bought, and stuffed it into my bag. I didn't even scratch it until my lunch break. I was sitting in my car eating cold pasta out of a plastic container when I saw it. $3 million. First I thought I misread it. I stared at it for a full minute before I screamed. I drove straight to the lottery office and had the ticket validated. It was real. It was happening. The rest of the day was a blur. Calls, paperwork, legal advisories. I chose the lump sum minus taxes. I hired a lawyer and a financial advisor before I even told a soul. I had learned enough from watching others implode on reality TV. Don't brag, don't post, don't even hint. But I also knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to tell my family. Not right away. Not until I had a plan. Because for years they treated me like a joke. And now I held the punchline. This wasn't just about the money. It was about what it meant. It was the first time in my life that I had power, choices, control. Could move, travel, start fresh, help people quietly or not at all. And I wasn't going to let the same people who laughed at my dreams suddenly show up to cash in. But I also knew. Secrets like this don't stay quiet forever. And the moment they found out, everything would change. Keeping that kind of secret is like holding a live grenade. You feel it pulsing in your pocket every time someone smiles at you, every time someone calls your name. Every conversation becomes layered. You're no longer just you. You're a secret millionaire surrounded by people who still think of you as the family joke. First, that power feels intoxicating. But then it becomes heavy, suspicious, risky. After I claimed the prize, I didn't go on a spending spree. I didn't move to a mansion or buy a sports car. I kept working my dull job, kept driving my beat-up Honda, kept eating lunch in my car like nothing had changed. But inside I was a different person. I had opened a new bank account under a trust. I had meetings with an estate planner. I was researching properties in another state. I was building my future brick by brick, quietly, intentionally. But every brick I added to that foundation made me more distant from my family. And the more distance I created, the more they noticed. Started with the questions. Subtle at first. Marla texted one night. "You still working at that boring call center?" said yes. Weird. I saw a new name on your Venmo profile. Hawthorne Group LLC? You opening a business or something? Froze. I'd used the wrong payment method at a cafe and forgot it linked to the holding company name. I brushed it off. Said it was for a freelance thing. She didn't push, but I could feel her curiosity simmering. Drew was next. He dropped by unannounced one Sunday with 2 six-packs and a suspiciously friendly attitude. Just thought I'd check in on my favorite little sister, he said. Been a while. We talked, awkwardly, and then he asked if I'd ever thought about investing in real estate. I mean, I know you don't have a lot, he laughed, but maybe I could bring you in on a flip. I do all the work, you just bring a little capital. We both win. I smiled politely, said I'd think about it. But I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't just fishing. He knew something was different. Then came the breaking point, my mom. Now, my relationship with my mother had always been complicated. She was the type of woman who believed suffering was noble, and anyone who avoided pain must have cheated the system. She never liked shortcuts, and the lottery in her eyes was the devil's shortcut. She'd seen neighbors lose savings chasing scratch-offs, and she made it clear, no child of hers was going to gamble their future away. She hated that I played. She told me so many times. It's desperation dressed up as hope. So when she showed up at my apartment one evening, holding a stack of bills and looking exhausted, I wasn't surprised. I just need a little help, she said, not even asking if I was okay. The furnace went out again. Drew can't cover me this month. I thought maybe you had some money saved. I wanted to help her. Truly. But I also hesitated. Because I knew, if I gave her too much too fast, everything would unravel. So I lied. I said I'd just covered some medical bills for a friend. That I didn't have much extra. She didn't argue. She just looked at me, really looked at me and said, "You've changed." And that's when the temperature shifted. It was subtle, but I felt it. The trust I'd barely held onto for years, now slipping fast. Within days, Marla called, saying Mom had told her I was acting secretive. Drew texted, "You okay? You're not in trouble, are you?" My cousin sent me a random DM. "Hey, weird question. Did you win something recently?" Panic surged. I realized I couldn't hold the story together much longer. The walls were closing in, and every moment I hesitated was one step closer to being exposed before I was ready. But then, before I could decide whether to come clean or stay hidden, they forced my hand. It happened at a family gathering. Cousin's birthday. I wasn't going to go, but I thought showing my face might kill the rumors. I showed up, smiled, made small talk. Everything seemed fine. Until I went to the kitchen and overheard them, my own siblings, talking about me. "She's hiding something," Marla said. "I'm telling you. You should have seen her face when I asked about that LLC. And Mom said she's been dodging every family favor lately. I bet she met some guy," Drew laughed. "Or got some settlement. Something. She's not the same." Then Marla's voice dropped to a whisper, but I still heard it. Or maybe she actually won. The lottery. She's been buying those tickets for years, remember? I stood there frozen, heart pounding in my throat. My hands were shaking. I knew in that moment it was over. They were circling, guessing, plotting. They didn't know yet, but they were too close. And worse, I knew exactly what would happen if they found out. They'd ask for help. Then they'd demand. Then they'd guilt. And then if I said no, they'd call me a traitor, fraud, thief. Because to them my win would never be mine. It would belong to the family, and I'd be expected to share. I walked out of that party before dessert, drove in silence, and by the time I got home I had made a decision. It was time to leave, not just metaphorically, literally. I had already been researching places to move, small towns with privacy, states with good tax laws. I accelerated every plan, called my lawyer, liquidated what I needed. I signed a lease on a coastal home 2 states away under my trust's name. I scheduled movers, changed addresses, and I gave myself 2 weeks. But I didn't ghost them. No, I wanted them to feel it. I started saying goodbye in subtle ways. Cancelled a family dinner, said I was focusing on some changes. Declined Marla's invite to help her with a house project. When Drew asked again about investing, I said, I'm stepping away from money stuff for now. Each lie was a scalpel, not a hammer. Precise, quiet, controlled. Then, just 4 days before my move date, everything exploded. Mom called me. Furious. Her voice shaking. You lied to me, she said. You won. You won, didn't you? You won that money and didn't say a word. After everything we've done for you. After all the times we helped you. Froze. Marla saw a post. A lottery forum. Someone mentioned a woman matching your description. She put it all together. You did win. How dare you hide that from us? I tried to explain. That I wasn't ready. That I was building something on my own for the first time. But it didn't matter. The second I admitted it, even without confirming the amount, it was over. Within an hour, Marla texted me a long message about how I was selfish beyond words and had betrayed the bloodline. Drew called to say, we need to sit down and figure out what's fair. Fair. You laughed at me, mocked me, treated me like I was defective for believing. And now that I finally have something, you think you're entitled to divide it up like birthday cake. That night, I sat on my empty mattress surrounded by packed boxes and realized the dream I once had, of winning, celebrating, finally being seen, was gone. In its place was something sharper, louder, clearer. I didn't owe them anything. Not an apology. Not a cent. Not a second chance. Because while they saw money as a windfall, I saw it as a doorway. Clean exit. Declaration. And I was about to walk through it. The day I walked into the convenience store on the corner of 8th and Main, I had no intention of buying a lottery ticket. I was there for a bottle of water and a pack of gum. But fate has a funny way of nudging you when you least expect it. The bright red Powerball sign blinked at me like a dare. $3,000,000. It wasn't the biggest jackpot, not the kind that made national headlines, but to me, it was everything. So I bought one ticket. Just one. I didn't even let myself fantasize. I shoved it into my wallet and forgot about it. 3 days later, while doing laundry at my tiny apartment, I found it again, crumpled in the back pocket of the jeans I nearly washed. Out of curiosity more than hope, I pulled up the numbers online. The first one matched. Then the second, third. My breath caught. Kept going. My hands started shaking by the time I reached the 6th number. Matched. All of them. I was a winner. A multi-millionaire. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat in stunned silence as my entire body buzzed with disbelief. $3 million. I wasn't broke anymore. I wasn't the joke of every family dinner. The loser cousin with no job stability. The girl who wasted money on scratch-offs instead of saving like a grown-up. Suddenly, I wasn't their cautionary tale. I was something far more dangerous to them. Successful. But I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Something in my gut told me to stay quiet. So I did. I consulted a lawyer, hired a financial advisor, and cashed in the ticket through a trust in a different state. I set up new bank accounts, used a business mailing address, and signed NDAs with everyone involved. For the first time, I wasn't just lucky. I was smart. And I was ready to vanish from the life where I'd always been dismissed. But secrets don't sit still for long. It started with a simple mistake. I bought my mom a new dishwasher. Nothing fancy, just something nice to replace her broken one. It arrived anonymously, but the moment it showed up, she called me. You didn't have to do that, she said. But you did, didn't you? I tried to deflect. What are you talking about? But her tone shifted. I know you. You've never had money. So where did this come from? She told my brother. My brother told his wife. And that's when the wolves came out. Marla, my sister-in-law, who once mocked me for working 2 jobs and still coming up short on rent, suddenly started texting me like we were best friends. Hey girl. Miss you. We should do brunch. Brunch. The same woman who rolled her eyes when I once ordered tap water because I couldn't afford a mimosa was now all heart emojis and exclamation points. Then came the birthday invitation for my niece, a girl who once asked me, "Why don't you ever bring presents like Aunt Sarah?" I showed up with a big stuffed unicorn and a Target gift card, only to be ambushed by my family. It wasn't a party. It was a setup. "We know you came into money," my brother said, his arms crossed. My mom stood behind him, stone-faced. "You should share with your family." It wasn't a question. It was a demand. They began listing everything they'd done for me. Letting me stay a week after I got evicted in college. Driving me to work when my car broke down. Covering a phone bill once. All the little things families do. Only now they were currency. Kept calm. I said I had no idea what they were talking about. That they were being ridiculous. But the air shifted. My mom's voice dropped cold. "You've always taken from us. It's time to give back." I left before I exploded. But it didn't end there. The messages started rolling in. My cousin, who hadn't spoken to me in 3 years, suddenly needed help with a small business loan. My uncle needed money for surgery. My brother asked for $50,000 as a down payment for a house, and said he'd pay it back within a year. Marla. She wanted a baby fund. I ignored them. Politely at first. Then more firmly. That's when the anger came. The mocking turned into threats. "If you think you can turn your back on family, you're mistaken. You owe us. You wouldn't have made it without us. You think that money makes you better than us?" Screenshots started circulating on social media. Old photos of me looking tired, sloppy, working retail jobs. "This girl won the lottery," one said. "And now she's acting like a queen." The post got traction. People laughed. Mocked me. Again. Only this time the stakes were higher. I wasn't just humiliated, I was targeted. Then one morning I found my apartment door ajar. Nothing stolen. Just open. Like someone wanted me to know they could get in. Changed the locks. Moved within a week. That's when the twist came, the real betrayal. I got a letter from a lawyer. My own mother had filed for financial guardianship, claiming I was mentally unwell and incapable of handling large sums of money. She said the lottery win had made me paranoid and that I was being taken advantage of by unscrupulous advisors. She wanted control over my finances. Broke. All this time I had kept quiet to avoid hurting them. I hadn't gloated. I hadn't boasted. I hadn't thrown money in their faces. I just wanted peace. I just wanted to build a life for myself without being mocked, manipulated, or mined for money. And yet, here they were, trying to legally strip me of the one thing I had earned, the one time life finally dealt me a good hand. My lawyer acted fast. We gathered evidence. Recordings, screenshots, statements. We built a case that showed a pattern of coercion, harassment, and exploitation. I testified in court. It was the most terrifying day of my life. They sat across from me, dressed like saints, pretending to be concerned. Marla even cried. Said I was family and they just wanted to help. My mom. She looked me in the eye and said I was lost. But the judge saw through it. The petition was denied. He called it an abuse of process, and warned them not to return to court with such tactics again. I won. But the win felt hollow. Because that was the day I finally accepted something heartbreaking. They never wanted me to succeed. They only wanted me close when I had nothing. The moment I had something, they saw me as an ATM, not a person. So I disappeared. I sold everything. Moved across the country. Changed my name. Cut ties. Blocked numbers. No more polite rejections. No more explanations. Because I had won more than money. I had won my freedom. And that, no matter how many dinners they invite me to or how many apologies they fake, is something they will never touch. When the court denied my mother's petition for guardianship over my finances, I should have felt triumphant. But what I felt instead was hollow. I hadn't just defended myself from a legal ambush. I'd had to stand in front of a judge and argue that I deserved autonomy, like a child trying to prove they could tie their own shoes. My own family had dragged me through court in a shameless attempt to seize the very thing that had finally given me a sense of security. And they'd done it without a hint of remorse. But that court ruling wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of their downfall and my rise. You see, I had spent so many years shrinking myself down to make room for other people's egos. Letting my brother belittle me for never making it in life. Letting Marla insult me behind passive-aggressive smiles. Letting my mother wield guilt like a weapon. I let them joke about my pathetic lottery addiction. Let them laugh behind closed doors while pretending to care. But I had a secret now. One worth more than any check. Had power. And I was done letting them walk over me. So I made a choice. I wasn't just going to disappear. I was going to expose them. I started small. I filed a formal complaint against my mother's lawyer for abusing the court system with a fraudulent petition. I had emails, audio recordings, and messages. Evidence that the petition was part of a coordinated plan to take my money. The complaint triggered an investigation. The attorney was reprimanded and fined. That alone sent ripples through my family. The same lawyer had been used for years by my brother's business and Marla's consulting side gigs. Now his credibility was stained. That was the first domino. Next, I exposed Marla. She had recently started posting Instagram reels about being a financial wellness mentor. She was positioning herself as a money-savvy, bootstrap success story to her followers, offering ebooks, online courses, and even one-on-one coaching. What her followers didn't know was that her entire business was based on manipulating friends and family into giving her money she never returned. She'd taken thousands from our cousin to invest in real estate that never existed. She borrowed money from 3 other relatives with promises of doubling it through crypto ventures. I had all the proof. Screenshots, bank transfers, emails. So I sent a full report to her Instagram followers and flagged her page for fraudulent activity. Within 24 hours, her account was suspended. Her email list unsubscribed in droves. And when she tried to recover her brand, the receipts I'd shared were circulating on Reddit, Twitter, and Facebook. Her little empire crumbled. She tried calling me crying, screaming, begging. I didn't answer. 'Cause no one cared when I cried. When I was mocked. When I was humiliated. Let her sit with that. Then came my brother. Drew had always walked around like a big shot, calling himself a serial entrepreneur when he barely kept one business afloat. His HVAC company had been fined 3 times for code violations. He routinely underpaid employees. But he still bragged at family gatherings about being self-made, and mocked people like me for wasting money on dreams. When he found out I'd won, he didn't ask how I was. He demanded a loan. When I said no, he called me ungrateful. Then he tried to sue me for verbal agreement to assist with startup capital. He claimed I'd promised him $50,000 and breached that agreement. Of course, he had no proof because it never happened. But the lawsuit still cost me time and money to deal with. And for that, I gave him a reckoning he never saw coming. I hired a private investigator. Within 2 weeks, I had enough on Drew to ruin him. Under-the-table deals, falsified invoices, unpaid laborers, and one smoking gun. A report showing he was running side jobs without permits, putting customers at risk. I compiled the documents, packaged them anonymously, and mailed them to the local Department of Labor, the city's building permit office, and his biggest client, who promptly cut ties. He lost his business license. He called me 2 days later from a burner phone. His voice shook. He didn't beg, though. He blamed. He accused me of being vindictive, of tearing apart a family over money. I let him rant. Then I said calmly, I'm not tearing the family apart. I'm just making sure everyone sees what it really was. Then I hung up. After that, the silence began. No more birthday invites. No more let's talk texts. My mother stopped calling. Marla deleted her Twitter. Drew went off the grid. The same people who once mocked me to my face now spoke about me in hushed whispers. If they spoke at all. Could have stopped there. But I didn't. Because the final act wasn't revenge. It was resurrection. I started a scholarship fund. In my hometown for underprivileged kids. Especially those mocked for dreaming big. I called it the Second Chance Grant. It gave small but meaningful awards to students overlooked by traditional programs. And every applicant had to write about one thing, a time they were doubted and how they overcame it. I funded it anonymously, but word spread. And when the local news picked up the story, I did one interview, voice disguised, identity concealed. I told them I used to be the family joke, that I bought a lottery ticket with the last $10 in my wallet, and that winning didn't change my character. It just revealed theirs. The story went viral. People emailed me. Strangers. Survivors. People who were laughed at, minimized, called crazy for holding on to hope. People who said my story helped them walk away from toxic families. Helped them believe in second chances. And for the first time I cried, not because I was broken but because I wasn't. I had taken every insult, every wound, every time they laughed at me and turned it into fuel. They wanted to shame me into silence. Instead, I used their cruelty as a mirror and made the whole world look. In the end, I didn't just walk away with $3 million. I walked away with my dignity, my voice, and the power to write my own ending. And I left them behind, not because I had to, but because they never deserved to come with me. I used to believe that family would always be your safe place. That no matter how messy life got or how far you fell, your people, your blood, would be the ones waiting to lift you back up. I held on to that belief through childhood struggles, college debt, late-night double shifts, and the humiliation of being the only one at Thanksgiving who brought store-brand soda because I couldn't afford wine. I kept clinging to that illusion even when they laughed at me. Even when they whispered about how I wasted my money. Even when they mocked me for playing the lottery. As if hoping for a miracle was something shameful. I told myself they meant well. That deep down they loved me. That I was just sensitive. That I needed to grow thicker skin. But the truth was harsher than I was ready to admit for most of my life. Some people don't want you to succeed. Especially if your success outgrows the version of you they've always known. The version that made them feel superior. Some people are only kind when you're beneath them. When you stay in the role they assigned you. The broke cousin, the struggling daughter, the underachieving sister. The moment you rise above that script, they don't cheer. They attack. Winning the lottery didn't change me. It revealed them. And what it revealed was ugly. The moment I had something of value, real value, they didn't celebrate me. They came for me. With smiles and knives. They tried to shame me. They tried to control me. And when they couldn't, they tried to destroy me. Legally, socially, emotionally. But they failed. And from the ashes of that betrayal I rose. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because here's what I've learned. Money doesn't change people. It unmasks them. It forces everyone around you to reveal their true nature. Some will be happy for you, quietly or loudly. Some will see your success as proof that they, too, can dream. Others, they'll take it personally. They'll treat your growth as a threat, as an accusation, as a betrayal, even if you did nothing but survive. They mocked me for buying that lottery ticket. Laughed at me like I was chasing fairy tales. But it was never about the ticket. It was about what it represented, hope, possibility. A refusal to give up, even when life gave you every reason to. And that scared them more than anything. Because if I could rise from where I was, what excuse did they have? I don't play the lottery anymore. Not because I don't believe in luck, but because I finally learned the difference between hope and desperation. That win gave me the space to breathe, to think, to heal. Gave me choices. And I used those choices not to become someone new, but to become more of who I always was. Quiet, resilient, observant, and finally unapologetic. I could have spent that money on mansions and luxury cars. I didn't. I built a modest life in a quiet town. I started a scholarship fund. I took cooking classes. I traveled alone. I read books that made me cry. I learned how to be comfortable with silence. And I began to trust my instincts again, because they had been right all along. My gut told me to keep that lottery win a secret. My heart told me they would never accept me if I had more. My mind screamed at me to protect myself. And for once, I listened. To anyone watching this who's been mocked for dreaming big, who's been laughed at for wanting more. Hear me when I say this. Their laughter doesn't define you. Their judgment isn't truth. You don't owe anyone the version of yourself that makes them comfortable. You owe yourself the chance to grow beyond the limitations they set for you. Sometimes you have to walk away, not to punish them but to protect yourself. Sometimes leaving people behind isn't cruelty. It's clarity. It's choosing peace over performance. It's refusing to be the punchline in someone else's story. Yes, I won the lottery. But more importantly, I won my freedom. And I'll never apologize for that. So if you ever find yourself in a moment where people scoff at your hope, or belittle your dreams, or try to box you in, remember me. Remember this story. And remember that sometimes, the ones who laugh the loudest are the ones who fear your light the most. Let them laugh. Then let them watch as you rise. And never ever look back. If this story moved you, if it made you pause, reflect, maybe even look at your own family a little differently, then don't just scroll away. Take a moment. Think about how many people go through situations just like this. Maybe not with lottery wins, but with dreams dismissed, voices silenced, hope mocked. How many of us have been laughed at for simply wanting more? For chasing something better? For believing we deserved more than the bare minimum? What you've just heard isn't just a story. It's a reality for far too many people. And here on Judgy Tales, we believe these stories need to be told. Unfiltered. Unapologetically. Because real lives are messy, complicated, and sometimes painfully unfair. But they're also filled with moments of power, redemption, and poetic justice. And that's what we bring you every week. So if this video struck a chord, if it made you angry, if it made you feel vindicated, seen, or even just quietly understood, don't let this be the end of our conversation. Backhand index pointing right, tap that like button. Not because it helps us in the algorithm, though yes it does. But because it tells the world this story mattered. That this wasn't just noise. That this was a voice worth hearing. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe to Judgy Tales, because this is just one of many stories we uncover. Raw, real, and sometimes downright outrageous. We dive into family betrayals, workplace revenge, secrets that come out in the most shocking ways, and moments of justice so sweet, you'll want to replay them twice. Backhand index pointing right, hit that notification bell, because the next tale might just feel like your own. Or your sister's. Or your best friend's. Or the version of you 5 years ago, sitting silently while others laughed. Every time you subscribe or share a video like this, you're helping more people find courage in their own stories. You're reminding someone that they're not alone. That being mocked doesn't mean being wrong. That sometimes the quiet ones hit the hardest, when it matters most. So go ahead. Subscribe. Hit the bell. And when you're done, drop a comment below. Tell us what part of this story hit you the hardest. Tell us if you've ever been laughed at for dreaming. Or if you had your own lottery moment, maybe not money, but that one time you proved everyone wrong. Because here at Judgy Tales, we don't just listen. We judge. We feel. And we rise. Ear listen. Balance scale judge. Beach balloon share your truth. See you in the next story. And trust me, it's one you won't want to miss.